In June of 1968, a woman steps foot into an elevator in an office building in Manhattan. She is not alone in this elevator. She and the other individuals with her are headed to an office located on the 6th floor. This may sound like a common occurrence that occurs every day, only this is no ordinary office building, and the events that will soon take place will change the art world forever. Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and welcome to Lisa Explains It All, a true crime, mystery, and art history podcast. And today's episode combines art history and true crime, so stay tuned. And now for the first segment of this week's episode, I'm going to head on over to Reddit and react unscripted to the Artist Lounge. And somebody asked for weird/unpopular art advice. Artist, what's some weird, unpopular art advice you know that are actually helpful? Okay, I've got my coffee with me, so here we go. Okay, and this person answered back, weird, but works for me. Don't draw. Take breaks. Take hiatus. Enjoy other things in life sometimes, but still appreciate art. Some of my greatest improvements have happened when coming back from not drawing and doing other things. And I think that is really good advice, because sometimes if you sit there and think about things too much, you kind of like ruin it. So you know what? I totally agree. Take a break and then come back and you'll do a lot better. Okay, next person wrote, an open mind on what inspiration you can take from is going to make your art more interesting. Try to find the interesting things in even the weirdest and worst places. You won't know what artistic eureka moment you'll find. That is also very good advice. Now, you can learn a lot about people and human nature and everything from all kinds of content and sources that aren't like art. Like this is art specific. So good advice. Okay, next response. You don't need to study constantly. What are you even studying for? Many people hear practice studies and just go ham getting every reference under the sun. They think for some reason that once they get good, then they can start drawing what they actually want to draw. No. If you want to draw something, just draw it. Spend some time finding a style you like and stuff you want to draw so you actually know what to study. And do studies along normal practice. No use drawing 1,000 cubes in perspective if you're never going to take that and actually draw a city, you know? And for the next response, sketchbooks are not for finished drawings. They're for the sloppy, messy practice. Drawing the same thing 100 times in 100 different ways. Throwing ideas at a page as fast as possible, etc. Okay, next. Just because it's art advice from a different pathway in the art world doesn't mean it can't be applied to what you're trying to learn. I've seen people get upset or discount when I recommend sculpting anatomy resources or animation resources for learning how to draw dynamic poses or anatomy. And this one I really like. Don't follow art advice from art influencers, especially when starting out. Turn off the phone and just draw. Bravo, I say. Okay, and lastly, visit local art museums and art functions. It is a great way to see something new. There's tons of great artists out there that are not internet famous but make great stuff. It is also a great way to boost creativity. Plus, you get to support local artists. And bonus, make art from your soul and not your mind. Okay, and thank you, Reddit, for the wholesome art advice. See, that's Reddit can be good for the soul and not just a place to read terrifying, weird stories. So, I learned something new today. And if you have any art advice or art stories that you want to share, please send me an email at lisaexplains@gmail.com. Again, all one word, lisaexplains@gmail.com. And I would love to put together an art-themed listener's story episode, so thank you for sending me your stories. Now for this week's episode topic, the shooting of Andy Warhol. And all of the sources that I used for today's episode are in the show notes. And picking up where we left off, in an elevator in June of 1968 in Manhattan. One of the men inside of the elevator noticed that Valerie Solanas was, quote, bouncing slightly on the balls of her feet, twisting a brown paper bag in her hands, end quote. This man was, of course, Andy Warhol. The other men inside of the elevator, along with Warhol and Solanas, were Mario Amaya, who was an art critic and curator, along with Warhol's executive producer, Paul Morrissey. The group exited the elevator, and Warhol went to go take a phone call. This is when Valerie Solanas took the gun out of the brown paper bag and fired her first shot at Andy Warhol, immediately causing chaos and pandemonium in the office. Valerie, don't do it. No, no, Warhol yelled as Solanas attempted a second time to shoot him. Both shots so far had missed. It was the third shot that hit Andy Warhol. This bullet entered under his right armpit and exited through his right lung. In all, his stomach, liver, spleen, esophagus, and right and left lungs were pierced by the bullet. Mario Amaya's back was grazed. Warhol said being shot felt like a, quote, cherry bomb exploding inside of me. Solanas vanished once the elevator doors opened. Warhol was declared dead for 2 minutes at Columbus Hospital. He would spend 2 months in the hospital recovering from various surgeries. A few hours after the shooting, Solanas turned herself into police. The police are looking for me. He had too much control over my life, she told a police officer in Times Square. She also handed over her gun, along with a revolver. Now, you are probably wondering, who was Valerie Solanas, and why did she claim that she needed to shoot Andy Warhol? She had a very abusive childhood, which included sexual abuse from her father as well as grandfather. She ran away from home at the age of 15 and became homeless. During this time, she would become pregnant 2 times, and both of her babies would be given up for adoption. And because of all of these very traumatic experiences, she developed an intense hatred and distrust of men. She is a very complicated and polarizing figure, and I will link a biography article about her in the show notes. Okay, and so continuing, Valerie Solanas was the founder of Scum, which stands for Society for Cutting Up Men. By late 1965, she had finished her first play called, and profanity coming, quote, Up Your Ass. Full title, Up Your Ass, or From the Cradle to the Boat, or The Big Suck, or Up from the Slime. Solanus mailed Warhol, whom she had not formally met yet, a copy of the play, and he was not interested in the script. In 1967, 2 years later, Solanus completed her Scum Manifesto. This laid out the Society for Cutting Up Men's mission of eliminating the male sex and establishing a maleless utopia for women. This work was seen as either a radical feminist call to arms or satire, depending on who you ask. Furthermore, that year she officially met Warhol and begged him to produce Up Your Ass. Warhol, being generous, let her be in a scene of his film, I, a Man. He agreed to pay her $25 for her participation. She would later claim that she never received financial compensation for the role. At this time, Solanus' mental health began to decline. She was given a $500 advance by controversial publisher Maurice Giro-Diaz in exchange for writing a novel. She pushed to have her Scum Manifesto published rather than a novel. Meanwhile, she became paranoid that Warhol and Giro-Diaz, who had misplaced and never returned her manuscript, were going to produce her play and take all the credit for it. One letter that she wrote to Warhol stated, quote, I really do believe that if you didn't have your lies and deception and notarized affidavits, you'd shrivel up and die. Signed, Valerie. She also, at this time, told him that she was going to purchase a gun. This alleged manuscript theft is why she, quote, needed to shoot Andy Warhol. So, jumping forward in the timeline, Warhol was declared dead for 2 minutes at the hospital. He would never be the same after the shooting. He became a much more timid and guarded man. He wrote in his diary in 1978, quote, I said that I wasn't creative since I was shot, because after that I stopped seeing creepy people. End quote. For the remainder of his life, he would be forced to wear a surgical corset that held his organs in place. Soon after the shooting, Valerie Solanus was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She stood trial and pleaded guilty to the charge of assault. She was given a 3-year prison sentence, including time served. She was released in 1971. 14 months later, she would be dead. In 1977, she stated in an interview, quote, I consider it immoral that I missed. I should have done target practice. End quote. Andy Warhol would pass away 19 years after being shot. On February 21st, 1987, Warhol died of cardiac arrest after gallbladder surgery. Being shot greatly escalated his fear of hospitals. This unfortunately led him to put off his gallbladder surgery for several years. Jose Diaz, curator of the Andy Warhol Museum, would later go on to say, he was always nervous about getting sick. I think death always made him nervous. But of course, having almost died once really escalated that. And that is the sad and unfortunate story of the shooting of Andy Warhol. Rest in peace. Thank you very much for listening, and let me know what true crime, mystery, or art history stories you would like me to cover in the future. And I will leave you today with a quote from Andy Warhol. Don't think about making art. Just get it done. Let everyone else decide if it's good or bad, whether they love it or hate it. While they are deciding, make even more art. And on that note, thank you again for listening, everybody, and have a great day.